Why are most people afraid to choose the path less traveled? The path that has hardships and struggles, the path that requires patience and other such virtues. The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck is one of the best books to grow spiritually and philosophically, and in this video I'll share 5 best lessons from this book that will help you do the same. Alrighty, so without further ado, let's dive right in. Lesson number 1. Accept suffering and life will be easy. We all go around in life thinking that life is supposed to be full of rainbows and butterflies, but no matter how much we reject it, the truth is that life is full of suffering. The harder you try to rebel with this idea, the more you find yourself suffering. We suffer because we dislike the impermanent nature of reality. We wish the reality were something other than what it is. That's where the root of suffering lies. We expect things to happen our way, and when they don't, it hurts. We want security in uncertain times. We want pleasure amid the ocean of suffering. This does not mean that happiness and joy are impossible. This is not a negative thought. The problem is more fundamental. Many people don't understand the definitions of happiness and joy in the first place. So just as with anything else in life, we expect things to be in a certain way. We don't accept suffering in life because we don't want the life to be seen as a collection of sufferings. Anytime you move away from reality, you choose delusion. We create delusions through ideas and suffer because we don't look and examine the reality. It brings more pain and suffering when you live in delusion. It's more painful to stick to false beliefs and ideas that are based on an ideal world that doesn't exist. That's why it's better to see the reality as it is. Life is full of suffering, but the best part is that it's possible to reduce it by accepting the true nature of life. So accept that suffering and happiness both are part of the package known as life. When you accept suffering, it feels less painful. You become stronger by embracing truth. Many people would not want to hear that on a cheerful day, but understand that my goal here is to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Lesson number 2. Love is not about being romantic. Today, the word love has become a cliche. Everybody talks about it, but nobody understands its correct definition. Let us begin by discussing what love is, then we will gain clarity on what it actually is. Love is more than just romanticism. It's different from what you see in movies. It's not about being happy all the time and expecting some things from our partners. Love is not easy. It's surprising how romantic movies talk about falling in love. They say love is blind. Anybody can fall in love. This is not true at all. If you follow this silly definition of love and confuse love with romanticism, you should become cautious. That's because these flawed concepts create more suffering in our lives. Remember, clinging to false concepts is suffering. We have to understand the truth. Love is all about growth. Note the word growth here. The person who truly loves another person is concerned about spiritual growth of another person, but he doesn't expect anything from that person. Allow me to explain. To understand the true meaning of love, you must understand spirituality. We are born to expand, says the author, and that's also where all the thirst for knowledge comes from. Love is about extending yourself to become something more than our physical bodies. It's about growth in spiritual essence. Genuine love is about becoming capable enough so that you can help the other person grow spiritually. Now compare this definition with the lie that is sold to us. Real love demands effort, dedication, discipline, commitment, patience, knowledge, etc. While fake love demands no such thing. Instead, it's based on the idea that the other person will make you complete. Fake love is delusional. It hides the insecurities under the blanket of romanticism. That's why when you say that it's easy to fall in love, it only proves that it's easy to fall in delusion. This doesn't mean that you can't like another person. Understand that true love is not random or accidental. It's always based on understanding. If this confuses you, just remember that you have to learn how to love. It doesn't happen by chance. Lesson number 3. Discipline is impossible without learning delayed gratification. In simple words, discipline is delayed pleasure in the present moment so that we can gain long-term happiness in the long term. Sounds simple, right? It's harder than you think. The human mind has the tendency to avoid any kind of suffering. Remember, we tend to ignore the pain of taking any responsibilities and often delay our projects until the deadline is close. Both procrastination and delayed gratification are enemies of each other. If you learn how to delay gratification, you procrastinate less and take responsibility for your life. But if you can't delay gratification, it'll be harder for you to avoid the traps of life. Most traps in life are centered around pleasure. That's why so many fall into it. We are wired to chase pleasure or instant gratification. However, growth is not possible without discipline. To grow in life, you need discipline, and discipline requires delayed gratification. Many people tend to ignore major issues like climate change, mental health, etc., because these problems demand everybody to take responsibility. Basically, it's boring, hard work that requires patience and discipline. Just think about it. The author believes that ignoring bigger issues is a mental illness, and he's quite right. No wise person would ignore larger issues in front of impermanent pleasure. So train your mind slowly to get over this issue. Lesson number 4. We all have a philosophy, we just don't realize it. Philosophy means love for wisdom. Nobody knows better than wise people how to live a meaningful life. You might say, but I'm not a philosopher. You're right. But the thing is, nobody lives without beliefs. Everybody has a map to navigate this complex life, and that map is your personal philosophy. Although it's debatable whether it's really personal or not, it's just that many people don't realize which map they are carrying. Note the word realize here. It means to fully understand something. As many people don't understand their philosophy, they choose only those ideas that they find convenient. And there is pleasure in convenience. It is worth noting that pleasure isn't bad in itself. But if most of your life is based on achieving maximum gratification, then I believe you should reevaluate your map. While talking about philosophy, you also can't ignore religion here. I know, when we hear the word religion, it rings all kinds of bells in our minds, but realize that most religions in the world are philosophical teachings carried forward by wise people so that we can all grow spiritually. As we all have some kind of philosophy in our minds, it's time we examine what it is, because if you ignore it, the chances are you may end up confused in life, not knowing what to do and which principles to base your life on. Many people don't revise their maps because they want to avoid putting in the work. There is pain in taking responsibility. It's the same bad procrastination thingy that we do daily. You don't derive any kind of pleasure by questioning your rigid beliefs. The good part is, once you figure out your philosophy, your life gets sorted. You become wiser. That means you know exactly what to do and what not to do. In the book, the author even says that we all are religious. I hope now you understand why he says so. Always remember that the goal of every philosophy is to help you become wiser, so that you use your resources wisely and elevate yourself consciously as a spiritual being. Practically speaking, you should constantly examine your knowledge and revise your ideas so that you don't follow bad philosophy. Lesson number 5. True spiritual growth is impossible without embracing scientific skepticism and examining reality. In the last lesson, we learned how we all have a philosophy or religion. Now, if you are scientific, you might say, I only believe in scientific laws and nothing else. I don't care what the author of this book says or thinks. Wait, before I move forward, allow me to clarify. I love science, and I also love philosophy. That is why I believe I can assist you with this matter. Okay, so here's the thing. Both science and religion, regardless of how far apart and different they might look for each other, go hand in hand with each other. First, let's understand, what is science? Science studies objects and physical laws of the universe. In the author's words, it studies anything that can be measured. If you can't measure it, science doesn't bother. On the flip side, philosophy charters in the unknown areas where science fails to measure. For example, there's no one way to measure human values. You can't measure how wise a person is. Sure, you can estimate and compare, but again, it's subjective. In contrast, you can measure an object's weight and height. The observers can reach a common conclusion and call it a day. The same is true for the forces and laws of physical nature. You can throw a ball from a certain height, and the gravitational force will pull it downwards. You can repeat this experiment thousands of times under the same condition. You'll get the same result. Science is experimental. You are welcome to question anything. In the case of philosophy, things often get complicated. It is possible that two philosophers might never reach an agreement and arrive at two different conclusions. The reason? It's subjective. But why does philosophy even exist? The beauty of philosophy is because of its unconventional element. There are set rules in science. It has to follow discovered laws of reality, while philosophy questions those rules. Although we all feel proud while learning science and technologies, the author says that it has a tunnel vision. Science is incomplete without philosophy. They are both connected. Only by embracing both philosophy and science, we can reach greater possibilities. So be both scientific and philosophical. And now it's your turn. What's the best thing you learned from this video? Leave a comment below. Besides this, I highly recommend you purchase this book or listen to its audiobook for better clarity on these critical topics. I put the link in the description. Thank you so much for watching.